seat at the table with some men with confidence.
And welcome to the Open Mics podcast. After some shenanigans off camera, we have the whole crew in the building, and tonight, shenanigans off camera were needed before this conversation because it's about to get deep, y'all. But before we do anything else, allow me to introduce my comrades who are here with me, starting with Mr. Rhino. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man? Everything's good over here, ready to go.
Good deal, good deal. Tony, how you doing?
Doing all right.
And Sean, are you with us? You in the building?
Yes, sir. In the building, present and accounted for, sir.
Present and accounted for. All righty. Well, let's get this cracking, man, because Father's Day, Kirk Franklin. If you haven't seen it, you might want to step aside because spoilers and conversation forthcoming will absolutely go in deep on this documentary. So you've been warned. Okay. I want to try and, because this is such a heavy topic, I'm going to ask a question that was asked of me the first time that I watched this. Initial reaction, first word that comes to mind after watching.
Wow. That's it. Wow.
Okay. We got a wow. We got a wow.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think I was thinking. It's dang. He said one word. You know, I'm not a one word type of cat, but deep. I'll say it was deep.
Deep. Okay.
Lies, man. Lies.
Lies. Okay. Okay. All
first
good words. All good words. Y'all are definitely on a different plane than I am. So I'll go be the one who takes this down to the gutter because the first word that came to my mind, trash. Just garbage. Trash. I just. Whoo. But anyway, we'll explain. For those of you who are still with us and still listening at this point because you've seen the documentary, we're talking about the amazing Kirk Franklin and this recent journey that he went on. And when I say recent, within like the past 6 months of, struggling as a lot of black men do with fatherhood and that identity and being a father or seeking the approval of a father or the absenteeism of it all, and then finding out after more than 50 years, here's your dad. That moment when he got those results and all he could say was, What? What? I felt that. Like, I felt that. That hit like, I was with him, like, what?
Right.
So, go ahead, Ronald.
He took it a lot better than I would have. I mean, I was freaking out with him. like, are you serious right now? Is this what we're doing? I mean, he stated that, and this is later on in the documentary. He stated that he'd already buried the man that he thought was his father, and he made peace with that man. And all of a sudden, it wasn't even his real dad. This is the guy. Are you serious right now? Are we really doing this? I was totally just losing my mind with him.
Oh gosh, there's something else in that I want to pin and make sure I get back to. But yeah, I'm with you. Goodness knows, man. I was with him freaking out too. Like, wow. That's just unbelievable.
Okay, I want to jump in if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think it's very important to watch it instead of just listening to it because to see the way that he was fidgeting with his hands and trembling, like you can see like his neck, like a vein popping out of his neck and stuff. Like you can see how affected Kirk was. Number one.
True.
Number two, let's talk about the dude that he thought was his father. He thought that there was a whole nother man that was his dad and did not care about him. So he went years being mad at this guy who who has no connection to him whatsoever. This dude died thinking that he was a bad father to Kirk Franklin. And that
Okay.
wasn't even his son. Like, can you imagine that? Can you imagine thinking that you messed up for 50 plus years, not being a father to your son, only to after
Mm.
you've passed,
Mm.
the truth comes out that that's not your kid.
Okay.
Like, he don't even get that.
So you just kicked the doors off of what I was gonna pin for later, but we're doing it. Okay, so we're doing this. Let's go. Um, yeah, I absolutely wanted to make sure we addressed that because in the first watch of this, I remember us having a conversation about getting to heaven, and I think it was Sean that made the comment about being in line and looking back and like, why am I in line? That's so and so back there. How did they? In my head, thinking through that same scenario, this man that Kirk Franklin has had animosity with for years is standing in line and they're like, come on in. And he's like, hold up, what you mean come in?
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole grown man down there that hates me because I did not do right by him. Oopsie, that's not your kid. And he's probably having that same what reaction. What? What? And that's all hypothetical and a little tongue in cheek, but just that moment. Wow. Somebody else, y'all speak on it, man. Talk about it. Let's let's dig into this.
Uh, Another thing for me was him. Let's go ahead and get to it. He already got the notification that it's 99.99999999999% that this could be your dad. All right. Well, what does that mean? That means he's your father. This is your dad. This is the dude. And then he goes and he confronts his aunt and his biological mother
Okay.
about it.
Okay, hold on. I'm time out right here for a second because I don't want to ping pong around too much with a lot of this because there's so much in here. We were talking
Right.
about that point of just the feeling that this guy was the dad and you despised him for whatever you thought wronged he did to you, and then just processing, I'm mad at the wrong person.
Mm,
Just kind of taking that in for a second, like I'm mad at the wrong person.
right.
Right. Not even the one.
Right.
Not even the one. I mean, it's like the reverse of you know, or I guess you could say the same. What is it? Got you for 18 years. Found out it wasn't his.
I got. I hear you, Kanye. I got
Yeah,
you.
we got you. Quick shot to Kanye. I was going to say that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was that was a mess, man. I could see Kirk would definitely have a reaction to something like that. You know what I mean? Because again, like you said, you just spent a lot of time and energy, you know, basically hating somebody that you didn't know. But he had to work with the information he was given at the time. That was the
Right.
information he had. Looking back on it, I mean, I'm sure forgave himself. If he didn't, he should, because a lot of us, we only working with the information that we have at the time. Same thing as if you did raise your own, raise what you thought was your own till 18, to find out that it's not, that, even if it's way later than 18 or 51, 53, like in this case, you know what I mean? And find out, hey, not you. Should have been somebody else, cat, But
Right.
it's like,
I mean, he's still dealing with the fact that, first of all, he was an orphan. He was adopted by his aunt, so he has years of that to to deal with. That's on his head. These are the circumstances that I grew up in. So the question becomes, where are my real parents? Why aren't they in my life the way that they need to be? I know for my well, and I know I hate bringing it back to myself, but I can only relate to the world through my own experiences. And I remember wishing things were better in my life as well, with in regards to my parents. But a point came when I got older and things began to make sense. Like why my dad wasn't there. And he was my biological dad, but just why, just the reasons why. And the reason why my mom decided not to marry. The reason why my mom decided that she was going to move on without this guy. All of that came into focus years later. But Kirk's biological dad was right around the corner. He knew this guy coming up. There he is, you know, only to discover years later when he's 51, half a century, that this is his biological dad. What do you how do you navigate that?
Okay. I
You gotta, and maybe I'm just regurgitating what's already been said, but it's just the impact of it all is just, it's just a lot.
that's a good word. That's another good word. Impact. Because that absolutely is what we're talking about here. The impact of finding out something so life changing at any stage of life, but especially 53 years old. That leads into the word that Tony used as his one word: lies. We're talking about the impact and how this shift of energy and attention and outrage and whatnot that was focused at the wrong person now has to shift to the other party, the mom. And oh boy, that's going to ultimately lead to my word. But before we get there, let's talk about the mom in this instance, is because she was present in his life to a point, and she was involved to a point, and their relationship was not necessarily the warm fuzziest of relationships either. But yeah, let's talk about mom.
Okay, I want in
Tag, you're
because
it.
snatching the mic from that. Go
I
ahead,
Tag,
get
want
it,
you're
Tom.
it.
Get it, boy.
okay, because and we can't just talk about the mother. We also have to talk about her sister because from the first interaction with Kurt, she was talking to him like he was a little kid.
Still.
At 53. She's still sounding like your kid.
So,
Get out the dang car.
and I'm trying to take my time with, not like he's a grown man, not like he's a 53-year-old grown man, but let's be real. This is also Kirk Franklin, right? This ain't no regular dude. This dude got money on money on money, success on success on success. He pulled up in a limo or some big fancy car, and you still talking down to him. And like he hasn't spoken to his aunt or his mother in years. And it's just fun to me that that if someone that you cared about hasn't spoken to you in years, that you would try to be as polite as possible when you got in their presence. Because there's obviously a reason that they haven't spoken to you in years, and they might be a little bit antsy as far as dealing with you. Nope. Still gonna talk to you like a little kid. Now that's his aunt, his mama. Lord, I don't know if I got enough words.
I hear you trying to take your time now. Take your time.
Take your time,
Because
Pastor.
I was gonna add the pastor part.
because forget about what's happening in this. That it's been 53 years, and Kirk, he calls himself an orphan, and I'm not saying that he's not an orphan, but just to think that you, when I say you, I'm talking about the mother, you were around this whole time. Like, no one captured you and held you in a basement. You weren't abducted by aliens on another planet, and someone, you weren't part of Guardians of the Galaxy. You were right here on Earth where you could have come and got your kid and taken care of him at any given point in time. And I don't know her situation, and I'm pretty sure she had her own difficulties, but I can't imagine that his entire child life, that you were blocked and incapable for that entire period of getting your own child. And go ahead.
I wasn't sure if you were done because I was gonna say that led back to my word, but go ahead.
Well, I'm also thinking that, like, as a child, you would rather struggle with your mama than be well off with somebody else. You see what I'm saying? You'd
Right.
rather
Yes, sir.
struggle with your own family,
Yes,
with
sir.
your own blood, with who you came from, than be okay with somebody else. And like, I can't imagine her being that down and out to the point where at no point in time she could have taken care of him. Okay, so that's the past. Now in the present, you can't give your adult child the truth. You know that man wasn't his daddy. Or I'll even give you a little bit of grace in that. You weren't 100% sure that other dude was his daddy. Because obviously somebody else was up in there, obviously. The real daddy.
Yeah.
So you weren't 100% sure that, what was his name, David? You weren't 100% sure that David was his daddy. You could have Dwight. Thank you. You could have told him, "Hey man, like, I think Dwight's your fault." Instead of, "That's him." I'm gonna put the bite down because I'm just highly upset. I don't see how someone could put a parent, right, not just a person, but a parent could put themselves ahead of their own child like that.
It's baffling, and it should be baffling. It doesn't make sense. I mean, first of all, you're gonna sit there and not take accountability. At this point, it's too late. It's too late. Everybody already knows. He already knows that this guy is his dad. And you're going to sit there and deny it? Come on, really? Now, you just don't want to take responsibility. Now, what is it you're trying to hide? And what do you think is going to happen if you continue to try to hide? All you're going to do is make yourself look like a fool. All you're gonna do is show the world that yeah, you really are a terrible mother. It's probably good Kirk wasn't raised by a you because he would have been worse than he already turned out to be. You know, with the things he had to endure in life, because he already had a no account taking mother, and too many women in this world fail to take responsibility. You've got to take accountability. You've got to be accountable. If I got to be accountable, you got to be accountable. The next man, the next woman got to be accountable. Because here's what's happening. A lot of kids are going to continue to suffer and to deal with these same kinds of abuses. And trust me, it is abuse because parents don't want to be accountable. I mean, I remember growing up, and I'm pretty sure you guys heard it too growing up. You got to take responsibility. You got to be accountable. I know you guys heard that because I was probably sitting beside some of you when I heard
When
it.
we heard it, exactly. We was all talking together saying that your mom said that too. Yeah, yeah. Both of them told me that same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Mom said it. The teacher said it. The preacher said it. People on the street saying it.
The
Kids today
neighbor,
don't take
right?
responsibility. You know,
Y'all's
and those are the
people.
drunk kids dudes at the store.
Look, look, your mom probably said it to me. My mom probably said it to you, etc. So I get it. So yeah, based on that, I don't know. I see Sean's wheels turning if he wanted to jump in on this or not, but I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it out there that that word trash was absolutely aimed at his mama. That was my first thought. Just complete horrible thing, right?
Right.
However, listening to what you just said, Rhino, and reflecting back on this a little bit, I by no means am trying to account or excuse for her decision making, right?
Right.
But allow me to provide a different perspective. 53 years is a long time to hold on to a lie. Reason I point that out is because A, it was a lie. I mean, it might be a situation where she was too ashamed to admit what happened because clearly, as Tony put it, somebody else was up in there. So what kind of rep- reputation does that pin on her? You know, I mean, if I don't know that I'd be quite forthcoming and wanting to tell my kids that I was the fast kid who was out here just, willy nilly. She could have felt a certain amount of shame for having let go of what was a good guy or losing a good guy and ended up, well, this is who I'm with, so this is what we're gonna try and do and make this work. And because I was the one, my first thought was trash. Is really baffling that I'm having this perspective, but I'm trying to kind of add a little bit of balance to the situation. Um, I, I'm not going to try and assume to know what she was thinking or feeling. My gut reaction is still, she was horrible, but perspective.
Let me help you out and spike this volleyball. No, no, no,
Okay.
Hang on.
no. She gets none. She gets none of that. And I'm saying that as a person that likes to give people grace and likes to give people room for understanding. But in one of the areas I don't make exceptions to is when a parent puts themselves 100% over their child. Like, it's a difference between, like, let's say that you're raising a kid, but you do something nice for yourself in order to bolster up your own self-esteem so that you can be a better parent, right? That's a different thing. What I'm saying is that when you are 100% looking out for you, like, is 100% being a plus for you and then 100% being a minus for your child, where you're putting your own self ahead of the goodness or the needs of your child. And your child, even at 53, is sitting across the room begging you for the truth. Please, I need this. Got paper evidence in in his hand that you said that you didn't believe the first time, so he had it tested the second time in front of you, and you still can't give him the yes, son. You can't even make it cloudy. Yes, son, I might have been wrong. Yes, son, I may have been mistaken. Yes, son, maybe I don't remember. You just said, no, absolutely not. There's no way in the world that's your daddy, even though you got double DNA evidence in your hand.
53
and
years is a
and
long time to hold on to a lie.
I'm
Delusion.
saying,
Uh, I-
and listen,
that- but go ahead, Sean.
go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just saying delusion. There's a
Yeah, yeah.
possibility, but go ahead.
Listen, I was actually absolutely gonna go the same route. Um, I was gonna first of all start by saying, we're talking about this. We don't. I was looking for that grace, Tony. I was gonna say that we don't know the lady. We don't know the situation. We don't know what her emotions were. We don't know what she was going through. The first line of what Kirk is saying is that it was a rough neighborhood. There was some stuff happening. This was not like suburbia, you know what I'm saying? From that standpoint, these were not folks that was in a suburban type situation. However, I'm still get ready to do it. I can absolutely concur. I'm absolutely 100% on board with everybody. There is points in which you can pull the nose up out of this. Whatever your moment of clarity was out of drugs or whatever it may have been, whatever your point was, there's no way. And then, like you say, same neighborhood, nearby, a whole nother person raised your child and you knew it. There's really, as a parent, there's no excuse for that. We're very tough on this program, and amongst us four, as being four men of a certain color, we're very hard on other men of a certain color who happen to shirk their responsibilities or whatever of their children. We don't stand for that. And that's the same underneath that same mantra. Then unfortunately you have to be underneath the same fire. There's no way I do any of that. There's no way I'd let my child now not talk to me for 23 years. I can't do that. You know what I mean? You got to be accountable and responsible regardless of what happened, regardless of the shame, because again, that is the problem. The problem is that you put yourself 100% and you were in your own selfish tunnel. I don't understand the motivations. I tried looking for reasons. I can't understand the motivations to the present to not admit it, even if you didn't know. No one put you know your whole thing on display. No one's talked about whatever rumors of what she may have been or maybe wasn't. Like there was no references to her being a crackhead anywhere in the thing. You know what I'm saying? So we don't know that, and we're not going to assume that. There was no references to her being a prostitute. We don't know that. We're not going to assume that. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, what we do know is that all the way down to just the present, just what you saw, just what you did. I don't understand the motivations for not wanting to acknowledge a DNA test at this point in time. But I said all that just to say to be on board. That's where I was going to go.
Sean, I kind of disagree with you in that um, if she doesn't say anything, then we have no other choice but to assume those things.
You're saying I see what you're
And
saying.
I'm saying that because, and here I go bringing it back to me again. Yes, I'm making it about me. I'm a man with the last name, but the last name that I have doesn't match up with the blood that I have. So
I get
my
that.
grandfather is a different guy. All right, the guy that I was told is my grandfather is not my grandfather. But all of that could have been cleared up if my grandma had been clear about things. But my grandma wasn't clear about things, and she didn't say anything because there was rape involved and a bunch of other things. So I kind of understand why she wouldn't say anything, but now she just leaves us to speculate on what happened. So if you don't say anything, you do kind of leave it open. Leave it open, and people are going to do with the information what they will. Now I had to accept the fact that I was never going to be welcomed by that guy's family because I knew him growing up. He grew up up the street from me too. I've helped him in his yard as a kid. But for whatever reason, I never saw him as my grandfather. I never thought of him that way. And to this day, I don't, because we never had a relationship. I knew his wife hated us. But it is what it is. But at least with your son, your own child, come on, sit down and say, look, here's the deal. Because my mother had to tell me some very uncomfortable things too. And I had to accept them. And then the things that she didn't tell me, I figured out when I was an adult. That's why I was able to forgive my dad and my mom for different and various things. Because now that I'm an adult and now that I've lived a little bit, I understand things. I understand why she didn't marry him. And it was probably good I wasn't raised by him and only got to see him at different and various times. There's reasons for that.
Gotcha.
But still, and granted, some would say I didn't turn out bad. You know, I'm not super rich. I'm no Shaquille O'Neal. I'm the famous basketball player that everybody wanted on their team at one point, but I didn't turn out bad. You know, I don't murder people. I don't sell drugs or anything like that. But still, some questions do deserve an answer. Unless the person that doesn't get the answer is willing to create a story and just move on from there. This is the story. Worst case scenario, that's what I would do. I would create a beautiful story, and this is the story I'm going to choose to believe, and let the family move on with that. No, you come from a good line, and let them grow into that. Yeah, we come from a good line.
I get it.
All right, jumping back in, spiking that volleyball too. No, sorry, but okay. So I like the attempts at grace, and fellas, believe me, that's the side that I would like to be on, but there are several grievances. Number one, she wasn't there for Kirk. Put herself before Kirk. I really don't like it when a parent puts themselves before their child at the detriment of their child. Okay, so I'm gonna get past that. That was in the past when he was a kid. Still, after years of him being an adult, and so if he's got to 53 and he's then had to go through all of that trauma and therapy and all of that healing in himself, what were you doing this whole time? Did you not heal? Did you not become a better person in all these years? Right? Like, let's say that you had Kirk when you was a young kid. That was 53 years ago. You've had plenty of opportunity of time to become somewhat of a better person since then. Have you not evolved at all? Okay, so let me not get too deep into her. Number two, she robbed another possible good man of having a son. He missed his son's entire life. He missed 53 years of his son's life where he could have taken him to ball games. He could have been to concerts with him. He could have supported him after records. Like, he could have been there that entire time, and he will not get that back. And just as a side piece on that, one thing that gets me about it is Mr. Rick, when he found out, he was patient with Kirk, and he was saying you could come in at your own pace, at your own speed, bring whoever you need to bring in with you, and we'll accept you. He got Kirk got more support from Mr. Rick, who had just met him, than his own biological family. That don't make no sense.
Are you gonna make a habit of just trying to kick the doors off of where I'm going with this next, or what?
I don't know because I'm
I'm joking with you, man. It's fine. I'm loving the segue
It's-
setup, so it's cool.
Hey,
I
like
get
a,
it.
they don't call him Grumpy Smith because Grumpy's on his birth certificate.
right.
like
No, 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 no. Look, I feel like old habits die hard. He's used to being in the hot seat, so I get it. And I was going to say I don't want to take this entire time and talk about the mom, because
right,
we could run her in the ground for an hour and a half and still not scratch the surface of all the problems and issues there, right?
right.
But instead, I wanted to try and focus on something that might be more meaningful for us as black men, and the manifestation of the relationships between the three men involved, because we haven't actually, the four men, because we talked about Dwight, obviously we talked about Kurt, you know, his dad, his biological father, and then there's the fourth man that we haven't got into yet, so I'm gonna bring him up
Kieran.
now, Kirk Franklin's son, Carrion.
Kieran. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that that whole thing, from the moment he handed him the envelope, and Kirk's biological dad put his glasses on, he opened it up, and instantly, you want to talk about somebody's physical reaction and seeing a change in a person, that man broke instantly. And I don't mean break in like a bad way. He was so overcome with emotion that it just, you could see how it physically affected him. And I, as a father, I couldn't imagine being in his shoes. And I don't know. I just feel like that that was it was awesome to see, but it was also heartbreaking to see. Did anybody else?
Yeah, I'm gonna snatch this one because I felt that. Like I felt all of that and his reaction. I almost said it a little bit earlier when we were talking. I felt that reaction. I cannot imagine. I'm not even we haven't even made it to those ages yet, right? But I can't imagine now getting a phone call to have somebody tell me, that I have a biological child somewhere that I never got a chance, you know what I mean, to be in their life, knowing I would have wanted to. And a boy, you know what I'm saying? A young man, a man, full grown, oh, that would rip me to shreds. We talk about the pressure, the the what the criticism, whatever else you want to call it, the sheer and utter total fire that we put on these irresponsible, fathers out here. We, have our opinion is known as a collective, even in this group, is our opinion is known toward that. Okay. And to say that, I mean, instantly, I'd almost feel like, am I one? Am I one? You know what I'm saying? Like, this feels like I was one. Now, no, I didn't know, but at the same time, like y'all was saying earlier, like Tony was saying earlier, you basically feel cheated. You feel robbed of an opportunity to be a father. You know what I'm saying? To had been, you know, to had been a biological father, you know what I'm saying, and had been in that your child's life. So yeah, I felt that one all day too, Terrence. I did. I felt that. I cannot imagine what that had to feel like come crashing down. But I'll say this on the back end now, and I know we're not going here yet. The picture of them two together at the end, as heartwarming as it was and everything else. But they also said that because this man had worked nearby as well, correct? I'm correct in that, right?
Yeah.
You know, I am in a pretty good sized city, and just I have had people consistently tell me, you know, that I look like a certain person or whatever the case may be. I had worked with a guy, and you know how I don't know if you guys ever experienced that. Most of the time when somebody say, "Oh, you look like so and so," you look like so and so, you're like, "Yeah, nah." You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Who you talking about? No, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not even it. But every now and then you hit that person. It's like, dang, this dude kind of look like me. My thing is, I can't imagine being from a smaller town and definitely in a father role. Because again, me, I had my dad there. I can see my mannerisms of my dad's. Like, my dad used to do this. There's certain pictures I take. I'm like, I look like my dad. I feel like if my biological son was nearby, anywhere nearby, in that way, in that form or fashion, I would probably be like, because man, did you see how alike? This is what I was talking about. Do you see how alike they looked together on that picture at the end? It seems like somebody would have put fingers on that way earlier, but I'm not going to go to, conspiracy theories or anything from that standpoint because it was too powerful to do that. And I don't want to belittle it that way. However,
Right.
it's absolutely amazing that, I would find it even to this day that I could have a son who looked that much like me and be that close. And that's even more heartbreaking than finding out that it was and it's not, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So,
Right.
You know what?
Well,
You know what I think actually works against that? I think what actually works against that is Kirk Franklin's fame, right? If he was just some dude that if he was just some uh, garbage man around the neighborhood, right, and he wasn't
right.
famous, and to say, hey, you look just like this guy, tell Miss Ray, hey, you look just like this garbage man over here,
I get it.
that's younger than you,
I get it.
it might draw attraction. But if you somebody say, hey, you look like Kirk Franklin,
Right.
like, yeah, whatever, you just think, okay, everybody has a celebrity that they look alike. That's just mine.
I was gonna, you know what? I was gonna say, Tony's. Of course, there's certain celebrities we probably could call that I even look like right now. And it's like that
Like,
don't mean
that
that
ain't
don't
my daddy,
that don't mean it's like because of, and you like you said, because of the fame part of it, right? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then to be, boy, I can't imagine for somebody to tell me I look like somebody and then come back with 99.9. Oh my
And plus,
Especially
not
there's
that
so many
person.
right.
people that look alike. I've
It's true.
seen
That's true
white
too.
people that look like black people I know. I've seen black people that look like white people I know.
That's
And then
true.
there's my friend who everybody thinks is Mexican. His mom is white, his dad's black. It just is what it is. So the end all is the DNA test. The DNA test. Give me the DNA test. Let's look at those numbers, and that'll separate fact from fiction.
I say at the end of the day, the DNA testing absolutely separated the fact from the fiction. And I hear this that argument of how can you be that close in proximity to somebody and people not try and make those connections sooner. I don't. I'm gathering that people didn't necessarily pay the relationship a ton of attention because it was like he had to actually tell people, "No, I dated his mom back in the day." You did, and from that, I think that was kind of like the spark that kind of set this whole domino effect in motion. It's like I didn't know that. Now that you mention it, and then things started to kind of come into view and become clear, as they say. But Um, I was just number one excited to see the healing power that this revelation had in all three of their lives, meaning Kirk, his son, and his biological father. Because you could tell that the father felt some sort of healing within him. Well, not some sort of healing, but he felt very proud. And not just like, oh, Kirk Franklin's my son, but like proud that there was a part of him that has been, use that word, manifest again in a physical form, and he now has legacy. And I don't know what his family structure and stuff is like as far as kids and everything else outside of this, but it's like he looks at Kurt Franklin now as a part of his legacy, and that's probably an awesome feeling. And then he has this grandson that he has the pleasure of getting to know. Obviously, it was healing for Kirk, and from the moment he told him, "I'm gonna give you this hug," it may not be great, but that did something for him to the point to where he was like, "Now I got to make sure that I get things with my own son right." And there, now mind you, it did end, in my opinion. I read the little write up at the end. They're still working things out, or however it was phrased. So it's not like everything is all peaches and cream, but you know, they went from not talking to absolutely trying to resolve an issue, which is the good point there. And it was just really, I think, therapeutic and healing to see. So, Rhino, I'm gonna steal your phrase a little bit here and talk about looking at the world and making this personal and relating it through your lens, right? For me, when we watched it together, I thought about all of us and our growing up and whatnot, and everybody had the situations we came up in, right? And I'm not picking. Usually I would be, but I'm not picking on Sean in this moment. But Sean made the comment, "Well, I didn't know if I'd have much to contribute," and I thought that was interesting because of the four of us, your situation was probably the most conventional. Curious to know why you didn't think you'd have anything to say on it, though.
Because of that, because I guess because of that very reason, looking at, like you said, looking at and like you said, to bring things back to personal, like when you say you're talking about personal thing, but I'll keep it just from, with me, with Kirk, Kirk coming up without his dad and that type of thing, and having that, thinking someone else was, and everything like that. But number one, coming up without his dad and without knowing who his father, or for a little bit, not knowing who his father was, then figuring out, oh, I think it's this guy, or whatever the case may be. So I felt like I knew who my dad was. I knew, like I was saying from before, I grew up with my father. I saw my mannerisms in him. I got a chance to feel that, to be like, that's why I do that, because you do that. I bite my cuticles because you bite them. You know what I mean? I step on my feet high because you do. I could see that already. You know what I mean? So I got a chance. It was like you said, it was a different experience. I had both mom and dad there for a while. There
Okay.
was some turmoil there. There was some other stuff, but they were there. Yeah, there was a point in which it was like, y'all don't need to be here. Go this way, and I'll see you at Christmas 1 and you at Christmas 2. Please, Lord. This is a request, okay? And it sounds
Okay.
crazy, but that's where we were. I was in that level, not the level of, so I didn't feel like I could relate.
Okay. I was just curious, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate you putting it out there because I didn't want to necessarily put anybody too far out there personally, but at the same time, this is a personal situation that hits home because there are a lot of us, myself included, who grew up with absent fathers. And I'll say it that way because I don't want to talk
Absolutely.
ill of
It makes sense.
my father because I did not have the luxury of getting to know him more than I did. And everything that we've talked about kind of ties into my relationship with him, you know, from the lack of knowing because the other parent wasn't necessarily forthcoming or open or shared a lot in that regard, you know, to me having kind of a reconciliation of my own with him. We were on that path to reconciliation before he passed away. You know, Sean, you mentioned being able to see little things about your dad and yourself. I'm finding out through my brothers, his other two sons, how much like him I am, or the similarities. So I get it, and seeing it play out in somebody else's life was just like one of those moments of wow, I can see myself in that, and it was refreshing, but also kind of disheartening because we shouldn't. I feel like more of us should feel like you, in the sense that I don't necessarily get it when that's not necessarily the case.
No, absolutely. You're right. I like that. That's profound because it should be more of us, and at one point it was that could say that it wasn't. I'm not sure I relate to that, but yeah, you're right. That's why it was such a good topic for us to cover tonight. From that standpoint, is there's far more people that relate than you know what we as a black male community probably even talk about. You know what I'm saying? I'll share this. I had a coworker, because oftentimes I tell you, the under fire, the criticism, we talk about the fact that we've come up together and we have similar values and things like that. I'll get with coworkers. I'm trying to make this short. I got with a coworker, talked about it. I'm speaking with that same passion about taking care of your kids, because he had just mentioned something to me about his sons. Okay. So I started talking about that same passion, that we have. You're supposed to take care of your sons, supposed to take care of your kids. Should be more of us, black fathers and things like that. Those the few of us, that if we're doing the right things, we need to celebrate that so we can see it. Ain't no way you should have no child out there. I don't care how crazy you say the baby mama is, whatever is supposed to be going on, that you ain't fighting for and fighting to take the responsibility for, to see, and things like that. And he went cold on me somewhere in between the conversation, which when I was replaying it back in my head, it kind of let me know that it was like, so he might have been talking about two he had at home, but he probably blames, he's probably got one that he blames the baby mama for not seeing this, that, or whatever. I can't get through that. And I stepped on like his toes and stomped. And suddenly the conversation shifted. You see what I'm saying? And this was just stuff that was left. He didn't tell me. He didn't say, hey, Scott, you stepped on my toes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It wasn't that. But I felt it. And it was like, oh, you just talked about your two boys at home. And yet, somehow, me not knowing your life, I stepped on your toes otherwise. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Yeah.
so it's crazy, man. Like you said, it should be less relatable, but it's still more than we care to admit. And that's why I still feel like, and we said that before, we have a responsibility, those of us who know it, we trying to build each other up, and we're trying to send that message out. And that's part of what we do. We don't mean it as all straight criticism when we're saying that. Take care of your responsibilities, find your sons, your daughters, build relationships with them. It means a lot to them. It'll mean a lot to you. It's something you're supposed to do. And, it can't be described when you do have it right. Okay. The feeling that you feel cannot be described when you do get it right. We encourage each other. It's not all criticism. We don't mean to just come down and just say y'all some trash monk, and that's all you ever are and all ever will be. All right. We
Right.
mean it for you to pick yourself up, listen to what we're saying, understand our particular points of view, and go out there and try hard, try real hard to do the right thing.
I really appreciate the way Kirk Franklin even handled it. He had every right to rage and to throw things against the wall and to curse people out, but he didn't. He was under pressure, but for the most part, he kept himself together, and he dealt with it amicably. So that should be a point of approach for anyone dealing with the situation. What's the point of throwing blows for? What's the point of yelling and whatnot at this point? Just be calm, maintain your calm, and do what's best for yourself and the other people involved.
Yeah, Kirk was. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snatch the mic back. I was gonna say, yeah, just going back to the topic we're talking about. He was really. I appreciated the fact that he also talked about the trauma that he had from this. You know what I mean? We've talked again often on here on this show, on our podcast about how we need to share that a little bit more and understand that it is not a weakness to share that. You know what I'm saying? It's a strength to find and know that is something you might need to work through. It's something that has caused and shaped you in your life, something you've needed to get through. The recognition of it is half the battle in the first place. You know what I'm saying? The recognition of just about everything, all these traumas that we have, all these some of these things, the recognition, and then the secondary thing to be able to talk about it. Him talking about he had a therapist, things like that. I appreciated his openness and the fact that he put that out there to say, I'm gonna put it out to the world, regardless to how the world might feel about it or perceive me or what the comments or whatever it might be, because I don't see that as a weakness.
Yeah, that's definitely powerful perspective there. Um, man, this has been just a mind-boggling, heart-wrenching, deep topic, and I really feel like
You mind if I take the mic? I don't know where you're going right now, but
I
I do want to
go
comment on a
ahead.
couple of things.
Go ahead.
First of all, I do like how there was resolution at the end with Kirk and his son, and just being able to see and know that he has a grandfather like filled a hole in him, right? Like Kirk had a hole filled in him, and what's his name?
Yeah,
Karen had a hole filled in him, and I think Karen also it also helps him understand Kirk more, because it's like you're expecting him to be a father when he never learned how to be a father, right?
right.
But
Yeah, that makes sense.
so here's the not so happy part is that we the black community, we got to do better. Plain and simple.
We do.
We have to do better. We can't keep having our kids not know who they are. And there are so many times where one parent, both parents are falling out, keeping things from each other, keeping things from the kids.
Right.
And I'm not going to go into reasons why. I'm not going to go into male, female, what have you. But got to stop putting yourself in front of your child. You're, once you decided to conceive and bring to term, that child should come before you. Plain and simple. At least for 18 years, right?
Right.
At least until they are a functioning adult themselves.
Right.
And it's to the point where it's a lot of selfishness going on, and we're worried about how we're going to look as a person, how we're going to look to the community, how such and such is going to think about us, and such, all this stuff, when the child is going without, and it's time to stop all that garbage. And that's all I'm going to say, because I could go deeper, but I don't want I don't want to dig even deeper hole.
Nah, I mean, you haven't been wrong. I know at one point our conversation may have seemed like we were at odds a little bit, but you know, when I was making volleys that you kept spiking into the ground, I wasn't necessarily doing it with the intent of disagreeing with you. It was just kind of serving up conversation points. And I was actually just kind of getting to this place of feeling like, there's a lot still left to dig into with this, but we've been at this for a little bit, and I am just anxious to see how the rest of this unfolds moving forward for those three men in particular, because hopefully this will kind of set the groundwork for what you're talking about, Tony, as far as changing the dynamic and changing the narrative is what I was looking for. Creating a new blueprint on how to tell hard things to your kids, giving your kids these identities that they need, putting them ahead of yourself to make sure that they have what they need and being there for them. Absolutely. Um, does anybody else have anything else that they wanted to bring
Yeah,
forth?
just one little thing. Just like Tony said, black people really do need to do better, and especially Black Americans. Um, we of all people should have a huge distrust for the government, but understand that when you don't care for your kids, the government will gladly step in and care for them. But it's not going to be the kind of care that they need or the kind of care you think they should get. Don't think for a minute it's going to be nice, is what I'm saying. They're better off with you being there and being focused and being involved in their lives. And stop being vindictive. Let your ex have a relationship with his or her kid. I mean, come on. It's time to get past that. All right. Whatever disagreements you may have, fine. But at least for the kids, be civil. Just for the kids. And I'll leave it there.
Okay. All right. So Tony's had his final, his parting words. Randall just dropped his parting words. Sean, you got anything else you want to leave with us, or are you good? Okay. Sean's seemingly good. So, on that note, I'm just going to take this opportunity to, as always, extend an invitation to our listeners. Anybody else who feels like there was something that they wanted to share with the group, or bring to our attention that we might not have talked on or addressed, please, as always, leave comments. And once again, thank y'all for listening. Like, share, subscribe. God bless you. Good night. Peace.